Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, what up, Bull fam? It's the Director, Chargers fans. I don't know how much I was going to talk about this before, man. I think, after 100,000 times of being asked a question, I thought to myself, no. But after 1,000,000 times of being asked a question, I thought to myself, maybe. It wasn't until this morning, yesterday, we started hearing rumors about something that almost happened on draft night that I considered talking about Justin Jefferson to the Chargers. Now, to be fair, we've covered it a little bit here and there in some projects, some, trade scenario videos, but nothing really solidified, at least in my mind, as to this becoming a reality. It felt like a farce. It felt like, maybe a pipe dream to some people. Justin Jefferson coming to the Chargers would have been very, very complicated back then. Nowadays, and especially with what we're hearing in terms of rumors, things have changed. The playing field has changed, and I wanted to cover with you guys something that I actually feel blows my mind, and it's something I feel like with you guys might be pretty shocking to you as well, because this isn't something that I'm pulling out of my butt. This isn't something that, we're making up for content and views and whatever else the comments are accusing us of. This is something that actually almost went down. We're seeing it on Pat McAfee. We're seeing Mike Florio's out here talking about the trade that almost went down on draft night. And yes, the Chargers were involved in that situation, in that scenario. Something almost happened, and it almost resulted in Justin Jefferson becoming a Los Angeles Charger. So today we're going to go over what almost happened with the Chargers on draft night that resulted in Jay Jetta sporting powder blue, as well as, honestly, what's probably most shocking of all, this could still happen. The Chargers still could be in play for Justin Jefferson after everything is said and done. We're going to go over all the ins and outs of this rumor and of this multiverse version of the Chargers that could have the best wide receiver in football catching passes from Justin Herbert. Before we do kick things off, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $250. Newcomers, take a look at the special on screen. You guys definitely help out the channel with every time you participate with our code in Underdog Fantasy. It's a great way to support the channel, have some fun along the way. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time. You guys take the like, sub, bell notification. Helps me out a lot. We're almost at 50K. We're literally going to get there in a few days, guys. Thank you so much. Lights, camera, action. The trade that almost shook the NFL on draft night. All right, to kick things off, to set the table as to what's going down with the director, what madness are we feeding into, right? Well, okay, look, May 29th, just yesterday, the day before recording this video, we heard some news via Pat McAfee, via Mike Florio, about the Chargers, perhaps. You guys can read it for yourselves up here. Contemplating trading down during the draft. Told the Vikings were trading up to get Malik Neighbors. This is the rumor. It's a situation, it's a scenario that Chargers fans ran over 100,000 times in our minds. Do the Chargers trade down with the Minnesota Vikings? Because back then, the narrative was, my God, the narrative is now, director has some crazy allergies. I apologize, guys. We look like Night of the Living Dead out here. Night of the Living bolted up Chargers going after a trade down. That's something that we all were anticipating and preparing ourselves for, was a trade down if the opportunity were to present itself. Back then, however, all of those were kind of revolving around the player and J.J. McCarthy, right? We're all thinking, okay, this is something that is likely to happen because of the quarterback. Lo and behold, the Vikings were having thoughts about going after Malik Neighbors this whole time, and it almost happened. It sounds like this is pretty legit, y'all. Jefferson wasn't really a part of this trade. Now, let me be clear about that. Jefferson wasn't, at least by this report, part of that trade with the Chargers trade down contemplation or trading up to get Neighbors. It sounds like more so that the Vikings were hoping to make a move to get Malik Neighbors on the roster, which would open up the possibility of them trading Jay Jettas at another time. Man, it's going to be tough getting Jay Jettas and JJ McCarthy not mixed up this whole video. I think Mike Flory also said that in one of his clips. Very, very crazy that almost went down on draft night. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I know that's what the report said, that, Jettas wasn't part of the trade package for a trade up. He very well could have been, though. If the Chargers and the Vikings made it that far in trade negotiations, I have to imagine that maybe at some point, maybe it didn't. I think at some point it maybe could have. Jay Jettas could have been part of the trade package for pick number 5. And it sounds like, at least from these reports, that there were a lot of talks, and the Chargers were contemplating a trade down. The Vikings were that partner all along, but also Jim Harbaugh was a big part of the stick and pick for Joe Alt decision that ultimately made up pick number 5 for the Chargers. We know what Jim Harbaugh is. We know what Greg Roman wants and what the team wants to become as far as their identity. And Joe Alt is as good of an opportunity to take to create that vision as any player is going to give you in the NFL draft. But Justin Jefferson, perhaps being up for trade, perhaps being that perfect, compensation for even having us consider trading down from number 5, could have been a very big possibility as well. Because the Chargers likely deal number 5 for Justin Jefferson in a very easy to believe multiverse version of the Bolts just a month ago now, right? It's kind of crazy. Maybe they get away with like a second round pick in the future or something as well for Justin, because number 5 was a pretty big pick. Malik Neighbor sounds like a pretty big commodity for them, but ultimately it's very telling to me, at least, where the Vikings' head is at with Justin Jefferson. I don't care that the trade didn't happen. I don't care that, the Vikings and the Chargers didn't strike a deal. I care that this was on the table at all. And it sounds like it's been pretty confirmed that this was something that was highly, highly under consideration. And the reality of a Justin Jefferson trade is still very much so on the table. Because they almost made that move, it tells me that the situation revolving around Jay Jettas isn't as cut and dry as the Vikings would like us to believe. Okay? Now, what if we have to go down this rabbit hole? I'm sorry, guys. What if the Minnesota Vikings did not take JJ McCarthy? What if, in fact, they did trade up with the Chargers to go get Malik Neighbors, and thus giving Justin Jefferson a shot to really light the league on fire with Justin Herbert? All right. Well, first off, we're going to go off the assumption that the trade was for Justin Jefferson and a future pick, okay? Just to make it kind of cut and dry, all right? I don't want to say, maybe there's a possibility we get Jay Jettas and number 11 or 17 or whatever other picks that they had. That's just too deep of a rabbit hole to jump into. So I'm just going to say it was a straight-up trade. Maybe we get a future second or first-round pick as well for Justin Jefferson on this squad. Cool. Awesome. He's on the team. The Chargers now are going to be drafting a little bit different, though. Because if we do have Jay Jettas on the squad all of a sudden, I know at this point Chargers fans are probably hollering and cheering and going crazy. We got the best, wide receiver in football. Maybe some people don't like the idea. Either way, that's the scenario that we're going with. Well, that shakes things up going into the rest of the draft. The Chargers, in this reality, do not take Ladd McConkey in round 2. Absolutely not. There's no reason to. You know what I mean? Which is kind of crazy because he's one of my favorite players. But, honestly, you would probably zig into another direction. I think instead they go with a player like Cooper DeJean or Kool-Aid McKinstry or maybe even Jackson Powers Johnson at that point. They don't have to trade up either. The Chargers can stick and pick and find success with their player there, which would give them, what was it? An extra 4th round pick or something like that. Which does kind of shake up everything else I have in here. But either way, the Chargers likely go with a different talent, a different position in round number 2. And a guy like Cooper DeJean, who a lot of people pegged as a first-round talent, would still be a pretty massive dub in this alternate reality. You might even convince me that they could trade up for a guy like Tyler Guyton at the end of the first round. No, he only went and picked 26 or 20, maybe it was even 28. I think the Chargers could definitely trade up. If they really wanted offensive linemen, I think they could have gotten Tyler Guyton with a trade up. If they were that adamant about it, as well as getting Justin Jefferson. But for the sake of this argument, let's say it's Cooper DeJean. Okay, let's use Cooper DeJean. In round 3, I think the Chargers still take Junior Colson. But from there, I do see the shakeups happening in rounds like 5 and 7, right? Where they double-dipped at certain positions. They double-dipped at corner, which now they have Cooper DeJean. They double-dipped at wide receiver, triple-dipped at wide receiver in this draft in round 7 with Brendan Rice and Cornelius Johnson. In this alternate reality, in round 5, which again, I think it's 2 fourth-round picks at this point. Either way, let's overlook that for the sake of my sanity. Cedric Van Pran would kind of be a guy I'm looking for in the 5th round. Give me a nice center. And Christian Jones, right, who would be an awesome value in the 5th round at tackle to compete with Trey Pipkins at right tackle, right? I think that'd be a great value there. And in round 7, I think I still go with Brandon Rice. I think he's a great value in that round. But also give me a guy like Kalen King, another cornerback, to help round out the depth with Cooper DeJean. So I think that those would be awesome picks, and the Chargers draft would look still pretty strong despite not getting Joe Alt to kind of kick off that Harbaugh era, which it does kind of put into perspective why that was such a big move for Harbaugh. That if in the end, like, getting Joe Alt was such a big deal because it does kick off the very specific vision that this staff has for this particular offense, and Joe Alt is a big part of that. But either way, in this alternate reality, the Chargers get away with Justin Jefferson, they get away with Cooper DeJean and company, and the draft does look drastically different. Now, after the draft, after the dust has settled, the Chargers and its fans are going nuts. We're going crazy. We're wondering what the future is going to hold. The first thing that the Chargers need to do is address the multiverse money, okay? In this reality, the Chargers have one extremely important detail to hammer out before proceeding into the rest of the offseason. That's extending Justin Jefferson. And it's something that could be coming back into play here towards the end of the video when we're talking about the trade and how it could still happen. So keep this information tucked away in the back of your minds. All right? Just this morning, I woke up to the news that Jalen Waddle just signed a pretty big deal with the Miami Dolphins. It was a 3-year contract averaging around $28 million a season. That's huge. And, back in my day, a big-name wide receiver was probably going to be receiving in around the realm of like $15 to $20 million a season. The position has changed drastically in the last 2 or 3 years, and Justin Jefferson's about to break it again. If a player like Jalen Waddle, who's great, is going to be making in and around the realm of $28 million a year, Justin Jefferson's going to be getting a lot more than that. Not to mention Amon-Ra St. Brown just signed a pretty big deal north of $30 million a year. A.J. Brown did the same with the Eagles. It's been a big year. It's been a big era for wide receivers to get paid. And it's a new standard. And this is what the Chargers would have to pony up if we were to have traded for Justin Jefferson. Now, I would expect the Chargers, after giving up huge draft capital, because let's be honest, Malik Neighbors, great pick. It's probably going to go Neighbors to the Vikings and then Alt to the Giants. I think we heard a lot of talk about the Giants really being interested in Joe Alt. A lot of talk around all of that, right? But that was a pretty big pick for the Chargers to part ways with. So it kind of tells me their commitment to the whole idea of Justin Jefferson sporting the lightning bolts. I don't think they would be shy with the contract if this were to be the reality. I think they would have been all in on this idea, and they would make sure Justin Jefferson is happy and is here quite a few years to be paired up with Justin Herbert. So my prediction would be 4 years, $130 million. That's a whopping $32.5 million per season to be paid to Justin Jefferson. Which a lot of you guys might be thinking, oh, that's crazy. We don't pay any player that kind of money. We're all out here, pounding the table for good deals and yada, yada, yada. This is for the best wide receiver in the league by a large margin. In my opinion, it would make a lot of sense. And it's what I'm guessing that the Minnesota Vikings are going to have to pay if they want to keep him in town with J.J. McCarthy. All right? Now, with all the money aside and all the drafting stuff aside, this is what you're left with, Chargers fans. This is the reality in this multiverse version of the Chargers that we would be working with. Here it is. Justin Herbert now has the best weapon in football. And it's a scary pairing for the rest of the league, guys. All of the notions about Justin Herbert overrated, and Justin Herbert this and that, and Justin Herbert blah, 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 out the window. Now he's got Justin freaking Jefferson. People are going to shut up. Jefferson has been nothing short of incredible with quarterback Kirk Cousins in Minnesota for the first 4 years of his career. Kirk Cousins. Let's think about this. His yards per season with Kirk Cousins, 1,400 yards in 2020. Rookie season. I think he broke the record that year, and then the following year was Jamar Chase, right? 1,400 yards. I think like 7 touchdowns that year. In 2020, 1,600 yards. He bested it by 200 yards. In 2021, 1,800 yards. The dude was stacking 200 yards on top of his already incredible seasons year after year after year until finally the ceiling caved in a little bit last season. He put up 1,100 yards in 2023, but he also missed 7 games. I would know this because he was on my fantasy football team. But I'll also tell you that I was crapping my pants with the potential of him being a league winner because he was on pace for 1,800 yards again that season. He also scored 30 touchdowns in his first 4 years in Minnesota. He is an absolute friggin' monster, and there's a reason why everyone calls him the best wide receiver in the league. Those are ridiculous numbers. Absolutely ridiculous numbers. And like I've been saying, this has been with Kirk friggin' Cousins, y'all. Justin Herbert? Yeah, that's a different story, dude. Justin Herbert, the quality of passes, the quality of play at quarterback is going to be different when switching from a quarterback like Kirk Cousins to Justin Herbert. And that's something to consider if you're Justin Jefferson at this point. Are you wanting to go for the big money at home, but now get a downgrade possibly with J.J. McCarthy? Are you looking for the big trade, which will put you in greener pastures with a quarterback like Justin Herbert? Yeah, Lamar Jackson, other these guys are probably going to be on the table too as far as potential trade partners, but this is one that's definitely pretty real. Now, sure, the Chargers, at this point, I think a lot of Chargers fans will be thinking to themselves, all right, let's say we do have Jay Jettas, right? Well, how is he going to be used on this team? Is this a big waste of resources? Because, yeah, well, the Chargers have Jim Harbaugh. We got Greg Roman. There's a table being set with an idea for this offense, right? All signs point towards a running offense. But even now, like in our actual reality, that's not entirely true. This is not just going to be a purely running attack. You will see more running in 2024, but we still have Justin freaking Herbert. Even without the idea of Justin Jefferson, we still have Herbert. There's going to be plenty of passing in this offense. Plenty, I promise you. And in the reality where the Chargers do have a weapon like Justin Jefferson, you would probably see even more passing because you want to utilize 2 of the highest paid players on your roster. And at this point, Herbert, if he were to have a weapon like this, and a lot of this potential, guys, I'm going to say parts of it, a version of it exists for Ladd McConkey. But remember, Herbert is not shy from hitting a favorite weapon. He targeted Keenan Allen on average of like 150 times a season. 150 targets a season. I think there was one season where it was like 90, and it's because he only played like 10 games or something. Ridiculous. Not to mention the games that Justin Herbert missed. Keenan was getting the ball, and he averaged around like 11 yards per reception. It was a nice pairing. But remember, with 125 targets in his rookie year, Justin Jefferson put up 1,400 yards. With 125 targets. 7 touchdowns that year, too. I'd have to imagine that the Chargers would have themselves at least, at very minimum, a 1,500-yard, 10-touchdown monster in this offense year after year after year after year. Each target as well suddenly worth around 16 yards per reception. That is the average for Justin Jefferson. That's around where he's at. 16 yards per reception. And each target would be more valuable. And honestly, with a stable running attack, this combo would unleash a lethal a flurry of play action opportunities. Not to mention, Jefferson had his best season during a Vikings stable running attack game season, which brought them, 1,600 yards, 18 touchdowns on the ground that year. That's the year that Justin Jefferson went off for like 1,800 yards. It was bonkers. He would fit beautifully in an offense like this with the Chargers, where he's the predominant like receiving weapon for the Bolts. He would get the ball plenty, and the Chargers would be singing to the tune of 16 yards per reception. I would have to imagine he gets at least 150 targets from Justin Herbert. Now, this is where this video goes a little sideways, a little bonkers. Because all this is kind of fun to think about in theory, right? Well, in theory, director, if this went down, I would have been a happy camper as a Chargers fan. Like, I get it. You know, this is all what if, could have been, would have been, should have been to a lot of Chargers fans. I don't know where you guys stand on this. Would you guys have wanted to go in with the Justin Jefferson trade? Would you have been comfortable giving up the number 5 overall pick for Justin Jefferson? I think these are questions that you guys should be answering in the comment section for yours truly to be reading through after the fact. But at this point, it's all been fiction, right? Fact or fiction. It wasn't real. It's not true. However, the reality of the situation is that it still could happen, dudes. And it's something that's one of the biggest reasons I'm actually even making this video today. It's still on the table. And it's one that you guys are pounding the table for every single time I go live on Bleacher Report. I go live on this channel. I'm asking you guys, what's a move that you still want to see made? It's Justin Jefferson, Justin Jefferson, Justin Jefferson. And the biggest reason for this is because even outside the Chargers rumors, the Jefferson buzz is everywhere right now. It's everywhere. He's still not signed with the Minnesota Vikings. Every day that goes by gives us a bigger chance at seeing Jay Jettas move on to another team. The fact that this trade rumor even graced the desks of Chargers executives tells me that the Vikings probably have other strategies in play that don't involve Justin Jefferson on their team eating up $32 million a season on their books. The fact that he doesn't have a contract yet tells me that Justin Jefferson absolutely could still be moved and the Chargers could still be in play here. Recently, a writer at Bleacher Report, you guys know them, one of my good buddies out there. If you guys want to catch my show, I'm live there at least a couple of times a month on Bleacher Report. Check us out. A writer on Bleacher Report covered the rumors of a Justin Jefferson being traded, and he dropped a pretty huge scenario for Chargers fans to gobble up. I know I sure as heck did. I read that and I was like, yeah, okay, all right. This was the trade. Chargers received Justin Jefferson. This is today, mind you. This isn't, oh, this is what could have happened during the draft. No, this is what could happen now. Chargers received Justin Jefferson. Vikings receive Quentin Johnston, a 2025 first round pick, and a 2026 second round pick. And mind you, this is a trade scenario I didn't come up with. This is something I'm reading off of Bleacher Report. I don't know about you guys, but I think I would do that in a heartbeat. I think most Chargers fans would do that in a heartbeat. And you Quentin Johnston believers, stay with me. Okay, we're just talking. We're just talking. Okay, we're just talking here. As well as a lot of other people believe in his bounce back this season, but we're just talking. And it involves him in a trade. All right. Now, Bleacher Report's Alex Ballantine, I think is how you say his name. He further explains that the Chargers, the reason that this could happen at all is because they freed themselves up to do something just like this financially. Because you guys remember what we owed Keenan Allen in 2024? One of the biggest reasons that we had to move on from him, the money. Remember what that number was? That number that we had to commit to Keenan Allen if we're going to keep him on the roster this season? It was like $34 million, dude. You guys remember what we owed Mikey? You guys remember what we owed Mike Williams? We owed him $32 million for the 2024 season. By cutting bait with both of those players, the Chargers did open up a pretty huge vacancy at wide receiver, but they also freed up like $60 million. I think 50 after all the dead cap and stuff like that, or maybe even 40. A lot of money all of a sudden on the table for the Bolts. And the thought process is that, you know, the Vikings, they can lean on cheaper wide receivers like Jordan Addison, and in this situation, Quentin Johnston maybe has a shot at breaking out with J.J. McCarthy. And maybe even a rookie with that first-round pick that we kick over to them while they figure out what they have in J.J. McCarthy. Because till then, you might be paying Justin Jefferson $32 million a season for 80 targets, 100 targets, depending on how they want to use J.J. McCarthy and this new offense is built. You know what I mean? And the quality of those targets are going to be different because right now we don't know what J.J. McCarthy is. Is a J.J. McCarthy pass worth the same as a Kirk Cousins pass? I don't think so, at least right now. That's why it's exciting to think about, is a Kirk Cousins pass as valuable as a Justin Herbert pass? I also don't think so, which would get a guy like me excited about him coming to the Chargers. This trade scenario, I get it. It's maybe a little optimistic if you're a Chargers fan. It would be a major dub for me. I know a lot of Chargers fans would feel the same. We would have the best wide receiver in football. We'd be pairing him with a much better quarterback, the best of Justin Jefferson's career by far. And it would make this offense feel like all of a sudden it has been lumped into a very clear identity going forward. We'd have Justin Herbert and Justin Jefferson. The Justins are back in town. They're going to light the league on fire. And the wide receiver, I should say the receiving game, the passing game altogether, the questions would go out the window. That is your passing game. That would bump Ladd McConkey, who is still on this team, which makes me happy, to wide receiver 2 at least, right? That would be a crazy quality pairing. It's literally Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison kind of pairing. You know what I mean? Huge weapons for Justin Herbert. That would put Josh Palmer at wide receiver 3 and so on and so forth. The identity would feel very complete. The passing game would thrive, especially now with an established run game, which I can still say with confidence would come from this new regime with Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman. That would help Justin Jefferson and Justin Herbert thrive in their passing game. We would be Ravens West. But with like a better Torrey Smith situation. You know what I mean? Like, we would be that run it down your throat team, but all of a sudden we got that big bad at wide receiver as well. It's pretty insane to think about. So you guys in the comment section below, is this something you would consider? Again, it's a situation that's been dropped, by a writer on Bleacher Report. I think it's something that I would certainly consider. Chargers giving up a first-round pick next season and a second-round pick the season after that to get Justin Jefferson on this team. We would have to pay him. We would have to pay him in and around the realm of $32 million a season. $32 million a season is likely what it's going to cost to get Justin Jefferson on this squad. Did I already say that? I hope I did. It would cost $32.5 million a season to get him re-signed. But remember, in retrospect, when we had owed Keenan Allen $34 million and Mike Williams $32 million this season, it makes you feel like, okay, the commitment is still there, but we're getting younger and we're getting the best receiver in football. That money is probably being spent a little bit more intelligently. As much as we all love Mikey and we all love Keenan, Justin Jefferson would definitely be worth that number to me. And it would definitely be a huge, huge kickoff to a huge identity shift in this team as far as their passing game. The running game would certainly demand a lot more respect. You would have to double team Justin Jefferson. You'd have to play the pass a little bit more. That would help your run game out a lot. There's a lot of things that Justin Jefferson does for this team. But the biggest question I'm going to get in this video, and the biggest question people are going to be asking me the entire time that the length of this video, which is what, like 30 minutes, is it going to happen, Director? Do you think Justin Jefferson could come to the Chargers? What is the likeliness? Give me the percentage of what you think Justin Jefferson to the Chargers would look like. To be quite frank with you guys, I still don't think this happens. I think this video more so, I wanted to get out there to explain to you that this almost happened, that this was a reality, that the rumor that we saw at the top of the video that was being contemplated during draft night, it is real. That was real. But the Chargers decided to go in a different direction. I think ultimately the reason I don't think this happened, though, is because the Vikings, I do think they're going to extend him. You'll need him to help balance out J.J. McCarthy's shortcomings, I do believe. I think that's how they're going to view it. Even though I do think it's a lot of money to spend while you're still figuring out quarterback, that's probably the perspective that they're going to have. But at the same time, you can never completely rule anything out, I suppose. Justin Jefferson to the Chargers, it could still happen. The reality of the situation is that he still hasn't signed, and every single day that goes by, he's a trade target. And he's one of the very few that I'd be willing to throw down the chips and say, yeah, let's do it. Let's definitely do it. But till then, I'm very happy with our situation right now. I think Ladd is going to take the league by storm. I talked about having that big bad at wide receiver. Well, we got that big bad Ladd, bro. And he's going to be great. And the Chargers are building something in terms of identity. And until then, I think I'm very willing to be patient and see how that works out before making a monster move like Justin Jefferson. But as they continue to figure things out, I do think that we're going to see a move like this at some point. Could happen now with Jay Jettas. It could happen later with a different player. But right now, Chargers, we're on the uptick. Justin Jefferson would get a lot of us excited. But till then, I think more so the fact that these conversations are being had are also something important to kind of monitor. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been the Allergy Ravaged Director. If you guys like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We're literally like 50 subs away from 50K. Thank you, everybody, so much for all your support up until this point. It's been absolutely an awesome ride. And I'll leave all of the speech stuff for another video when we actually pass that. But long story short, you guys mean a lot to me. And thank you for all your support. We'll catch you next time. And as always, bolt up, stay frosty. Jay Jettas and Powder Blue. I see you. I see you.